Hello, everybody. Here's Mr. Shalero's quick 5-minute lesson on tone and mood. We've talked a little bit about these things earlier in the year, but I want to make sure we totally have down the difference between tone and mood because they actually can be quite similar. The difference between these two words has a lot to do with who's writing the piece and who is reading. So let's go ahead and check it out. First off, when we talk about tone, this is actually the way that the writer feels about what they're writing. This could be how they feel about the audience, how they feel about the subject. This is known as kind of the way they feel or express themselves. There are three different ways that the author goes ahead and shows the tone in a piece. Number one is word choice. So if the author is using a lot of adjectives, like let's say they're talking about LeBron James, and they use words like lazy or arrogant, you might say that they have a negative tone towards their writing on LeBron James. But let's go ahead and say that instead of using words like that, they use positive words such as strong, brave, athletic. Those type of words will actually go ahead and show a more positive or bright tone towards the subject of LeBron James. Another thing that can show tone is our formality. That's kind of how proper we are with our words. So sometimes we've talked about how when we're writing, we want to avoid always using the word I and using different types of slang words. So if I'm not using those words, I certainly have a more formal or professional tone in my writing. But if I'm constantly using words like I and ain't, and I'm not using verbs well together, then I have an informal tone. Finally, our perspective has a lot to do with the tone of our writing. Perspective is kind of the way that we look at things. So if I'm writing an article about Cleveland and what I think about it as a city, being that I live here, I might have a more respectful, good tone about it, as to where maybe someone who lives in Michigan has a different tone because they have a different perspective. So, big thing here, tone is the way the writer feels about the subject they're writing about. Now, a couple different things we could see here. I'll show you guys a couple examples. It says, don't use that tone of voice with me. Tone also goes with not only how we write, but how we speak. So has anyone ever said to you, don't use that tone of voice with me? This is because, well, the way that you speak and kind of the way you use your voice and fluctuate up and down, maybe how loud you speak, those are things that can also go ahead and affect what we think your tone is. So if I come into class one day and I go, oh, all right, everyone, it looks like we're here again today. That's kind of a somber tone, vocab word. But that's a somber tone. It's sad, it's gloomy. But if I walk in and I'm nice and loud and I'm using my voice in a high level and I seem excited, then that's a more bright and cheerful tone. So also the way that we say things, whether it's with volume or the speed in which we talk or how high or low our voice is, those can affect tone as well. Now, mood is a little bit different. Mood is actually the way that the reader is supposed to feel. So, tone is how the writer feels towards a subject, and mood is how the author wants the reader to feel. So, the writer is able to use a couple different devices to help create mood. Number one, they can use dialogue, okay? So, when two characters are talking, maybe it's an argument and it creates a tense mood. So, if you see two people arguing and sometimes it's not very comfortable, it might be exciting, but it could be tense. Maybe it's a sad conversation between two people who are in love and are breaking off a relationship. That creates a more sad mood. Setting can also create the mood. Let's go ahead and say that they're writing about a super bright and happy day with yellow flowers and the grass is green. That sets a happy and joyful mood. Whereas maybe you're writing about your old unfinished basement at your old home and it's dark down there. There's spider webs, there's dust, it's scary. That sets more of a terrifying and scary or suspenseful mood. Another thing that can set the mood is the plot, just the things that happen in a story. Once again, I'm sure some of you guys have seen horror movies. The things that happen in that movie are what set the mood as scary or suspenseful. So once again, I'll repeat it again because that's how we remember things, is that tone is the way the author feels. Mood is the way they want the reader to feel.